The only constant in life is change, and never has that been more true than it is today. There are a lot of things that are going to be happening in the coming months and years. Much of it we will have no control over, but we are going to control what we can. Let me give you a glimpse of what the future holds. As the voice of the black media grows larger and louder, and more black people start listening to it and acting upon what we say, don't at all be surprised when you see some of the bootlicks who had previously, we thought, been put out to pasture all of a sudden get pulled out of mothballs like some old dusty family heirloom. Oh, don't be surprised at all when Roly-Poly, or even Mark Lamont Shill, winds up getting some sort of TV gig. Not saying that it's going to happen for those two in particular, but don't be surprised. White supremacy's run out of tricks a long time ago. They just do the same thing, only more of it. I told you about how years ago you had this asinine effort that was being ginned up by the white media that they were going to raise up a bunch of phony baloney black empowerment counterfeits. Individuals who were going to be claiming to speak like us and saying some of our words, using some of our verbiage. And all of it was supposed to be counter-programming against what it is that we do. But of course, in most of their cases, in fact, in practically all of their cases, they turn out to be nothing more than clumsy fronts for some sort of LGBT organization. And that has been a constant and consistent theme that we've seen throughout practically all of these phony black empowerment groups trying to palm themselves off as being like us. And they're pretty easy to spot. Whenever the white media decides that they're going to be giving ink to one of these organizations you never heard of, like Human Rights Campaign, or more recently, as we saw in the case of Dave Chappelle, the so-called National Black Justice Coalition, these organizations of the white media, they just sprout out like a fart out of nowhere. The white media gives them all of this attention for a single day just to see if they can get some traction, just to see if they'll take root. Will these guys get picked up? Or rather, will we fall for it? And as I and others in the black media have pointed out to you, all you got to do is look at what these guys are about. They don't even hide what they're about because they can't. And, as was most prominently pointed out by Tariq, when you look at the National Black Justice Coalition in particular, just as a case study, you look at who the money is behind these guys, who their backers are, and you see names like Planned Parenthood and Procter & Gamble, among many others, just a who's who of eugenicists and their fellow travelers. So you have the biggest and richest corporations on the planet, who, by the way, also give millions of dollars every year to these white supremacist think tanks, who create the talking points and the political and social strategies that are meant to keep the society pointing its guns and its anger and hatred at us. You see the richest people on the planet who are backing up these sock puppet Negroes. This is what we are up against as 2021 comes to a close. Our message is no longer on the periphery. Oh, the white media tried to ignore it all they could, but that failed. People like Kamala Harris thought that they were going to bowl us over and that she was going to take us by surprise. But I started sounding the alarm against her back in September 2017 with the deadly deception of Kamala Harris pointing out to black folks, this woman is supposed to be the next Barack Obama in every putrid way that is meant. When Kamala Harris called herself throwing her hat in the ring, she immediately found that all of her past sins had found her out. Mike Bloomberg thought to himself that because he had the white media saying black people don't care about stop and frisk, black people don't care at all. Stop and frisk doesn't seem to be hurting Mike Bloomberg's campaign standing at all. Why, the polls, he seems to be doing okay. And then what happened was he went down to Brown Chapel AME Church in Selma. Half the congregation turned their backs on Bloomberg in front of the pastor and in front of the world, delegitimizing that little pork chop preacher that Bloomberg had sitting here calling himself propping this clown up. And the very next day, the white media saying, looks like stop and frisk must have hurt Bloomberg. A couple of days later, Bloomberg dropped out of the presidential race. Just like that. And you notice that it wasn't the jackass Jason Johnsons. It wasn't the Joy Reids. It wasn't the Tiffany Cross-Eyed or any of these other black media clowns, these little bootlicks on cable who said anything about it. Why was it that they did not predict that? Not even one of them said it. Not a Donna Brazil, not a roly-poly. None of them predicted that. Now, the black media told you about it. Oh, they were all caught by surprise, or at the very least, they were sitting there looking stupid. They're supposed to be the main ones saying, Bloomberg, he might want to be careful because he might have big friends in New York and, up in the Northeast, where he has a whole lot of well-wishers and fellow travelers who, of course, have at least one major thing in common. But as soon as he gets outside of New York, where all of his little white media buddies are no longer able to sustain a bubble for him, he's going to be out in a whole new world. There's going to be a whole new world out there because he's not going to have any sort of insulation from the media. Nobody's going to be able to pick any privileged angles or be able to put a slant on the coverage. Same thing Kamala Harris found out the hard way. And when Bloomberg was forced out of the presidential primaries by the black polity, you notice that the Joy Reids and the Don Lemonades, they were not sitting there saying, oh, we should look at this. This is important. What it shows is that black people are able to force presidential candidates out of the race. They didn't say that at all. They did not at all acknowledge the power of the black vote. And these are supposed to be your black mouthpieces on cable. They're supposed to be the ones who the white media would love you to think speak for you and me. These clowns have no idea what's going on with the black street. They have nothing but contempt for the black street. They saw that we were able to crush presidential candidates. And they're also looking and going, dang, if these guys are able to crush presidential candidates, hell, they'd make short work of us if our white media paymasters decide to toss us overboard. Before we go any farther, just keep in mind, this is not a matter of we judge our success based on how many of the black bootlicks that the white media decides to cut from the payroll. There have been a number of civilizations over the millennia who have tried to be a bunch of little white nationalists. And before they all collapse or implode or get toppled, they all have one major theme in common, which is they try to project strength as much as they can. That's those Neanderthal genes coming to the fore, you beating your chest and such, trying to put on as tough a front as you possibly can. And they do that right up until the moment that they either get knocked out or drop out. So the idea of trying to project false strength, convince you that they've got strong legs when the truth of the matter is they're about ready to keel over. It doesn't matter if it was the Romans or the Soviet Union or Enron. All of these little organizations that these white supremacists are in charge of, they always do the same thing. They're always talking about how everything's fine, that they're going to be going to the moon, why they're going to be on top of the world for the next million years, and then the very next moment they keel over dead. They know that all of their boasting and bragging about how powerful they are is largely hot air. They know that it's mostly lies. But what they don't know is whether or not you're buying it. And that's where the black media comes in. Not just a matter of empty cheerleading and saying, oh, these guys, they're not as powerful as you think. It's just a matter of you need insight. You need people who can bring that to you. And that's the purpose that the black media serves. You damn sure ain't going to be getting it from those meat puppets who the white media puts on cable or in print. Their job, their actual constituency is not the black street. Their constituency happens to be their white paymasters. We are diametrically opposed. But white supremacy happens to have huge financial reserves and a big head start. And that being the case, they're going to be using their massive resources in order to try to prop up as many of these clowns as they possibly can. That's their standard MO. Try to flood the zone with as many of these fools as possible, kick up as much white noise as they possibly can. Cause or create as much confusion as they possibly can. And then, while everybody is distracted, white supremacy will either go about trying to acquire what it can or doing what it can to repair the damage done to it, to preserve itself, all under the cover of chaos. Well, the black media is here to shine the light of truth on white supremacy, to make sure that you stay focused. Now keep in mind, we don't do infotainment here. I damn sure don't. Unfortunately, a lot of our people have acquired a taste for all kind of buffoonery. The message of the black media, it is agreed upon by all black folks that the message of the black media is valid and true, but unfortunately, especially with our people, there's a big difference between what they know that they ought to be consuming and then what it is that they actually open their minds to. Black empowerment is not for everyone because not every black person deserves to have it. And we need to be honest about that. I've been telling you for the last 15 years, we have to take a hard-nosed approach to our power. So before you go calling yourself listening to any new fools who pop up overnight who the white media puts in front of you, oh, this is the National Black Justice Coalition. This is Human Rights Campaign. This is Black Pac. This is National Black this. This is Urban Black that. Before you go calling yourself opening your ears or your mind to any of these new jack fools who just popped up out of the ground or dropped out from the sky just yesterday, you might want to pump your brakes. You already have a black media that speaks for you. You already have voices that are speaking in your interests. We don't look for celebrity endorsements, and we do not seek any corporate sponsorship. That's the lesson that everyone should have taken away from the whole ADOS scandal. You got individuals who are trying to find gainful employment with Byron Allen. And by the way, Byron Allen, he won his little lawsuit. He got what he wanted. And just out of curiosity, how has that changed our lot even one iota? Has it done us even one scintilla of good? Can you see anyone other than Byron Allen who's gotten something out of his courtroom victory? It's been a few years now. You would have thought that something would have changed, but nothing changes because that was never the point. You can readily identify the real from the phony by who it is who actually participates and who regularly associates themselves with this black empowerment message. See, there's a reason why we're as strident as we are about this message. We want to have absolutely no ambiguity about what we're about. You see, if you're some Negro who's hoping that you're going to get yourself a TV deal, hello Issa Rae, hello Agent Duvernay, hello Hannibal Buress. If you're one of those bootlicking scumbags, then of course you already know exactly what the white media script is. You know what it is that they want you to say. You know how to be one of their Negro friends. You know exactly how far you better not go. You know exactly what it is that they want to hear. And you also know what it is you better not say. See, if you're hoping to get yourself a contract with some white media company, if you're hoping that they're going to be having you on one of their weekend shows so you can get some quickie appearance fees from them, well, you understand what the boundaries are. So when you see the black media talking real to people, saying exactly what it is and not backing down even one bit, when you see us saying things that threaten white supremacy, you also understand that those white agents and white managers and those white business reps and those white executives and producers that you want to be on the good side of because they're the ones who you're wanting to get a check from, you understand that you can't talk like this. You also understand you can't be seen associating with people like this. And you know what? That's fine by me. The black media is not trying to be some sort of clout chasers. We're not interested in saying, oh, look who we bump elbows with. We're not part of the cheese and croissant circuit. But we stand up for what is in black people's interest and we stand on it. Helping to put a spine into what up until this point have been a largely spineless people, and we need to call it what it is. That's how you get somebody like Colin Kaepernick, though I gotta admit he's been keeping some strange company these days. But also that helps to embolden people like Dave Chappelle when these guys see and hear the message. You better believe people like him, they definitely have heard the message that we've been saying. And they know that they're not alone. It was not the white media that gave a Dave Chappelle or a Colin Kaepernick, a John Boyega, or whomever permission to speak the unspoken. It was not the white media that said that it was okay for them to point out the anti-black racism from the LGBT. So there's a lot of people who have been hearing the message coming from the black media. And what's happening is it's emboldening and encouraging them. Even if these are people who we don't necessarily roll with, the point is the message is getting out there and it's giving people heart, giving people an infusion of some guts. So the white media's classic game of pretending as if these angry black voices out here, oh, these guys, they don't exist. Just ignore them. They'll go away. We didn't go away. Some of them have, though. But to be bluntly honest, I am not so much concerned about what it is that our enemies are doing as I am with what our response to it is. I'm much more concerned about what it is that we're doing. Because that's going to be what determines whether or not we win. We are not here merely to observe the white media or to give our opinions about the propaganda they put out. We are here to attack the white media. Why is that important? Because attacking the white media is a crucial aspect of delegitimizing them. We got to make it where they have no legitimacy in your eyes. In 2020, the thugs in blue found out the hard way what happens when you get delegitimized. They went from thinking that the white media was going to be able to cover for them, and, well, it didn't matter what anybody said. Next thing you know, the bastards were on their knees. The white media spends a lot of time trying to prop up its little hand puppet Negroes like a Jay-Z or a Sean Combs. I'm sorry, I mean Diddy. And these guys, they're running around saying, you need to vote or die. The black media said, do not vote unless there's something tangible on the table that has been promised to you. Because if you're just gonna vote or die without having something that's been promised to you, something tangible that's been promised to you, all that's gonna happen is you're going to vote, then you're going to die. Voting is an empty exercise unless you're getting something out of it. It's a business transaction. It was almost 15 years ago when I made my classic video, We're All Detroiters Now. And one of the things that I pointed out was we got to start using the right vocabulary. See, these hand-picked shuck and jive Negroes who the white media props up, they tell you jobs, it's about jobs. I was the one who led the charge to say, no, it's got to be about businesses, something that you own. It is crucial, vital that we use the right words. Otherwise, what happens is some clown comes up to you and tells you that, oh, I've got a plan for you people. And the plan is going to be for people of color, inner city, minorities. And you'll be so silly as to think that they're actually talking about you. We were the ones who made it cool to put Kamala Harris on the hot seat. And to make it very clear, there is a litmus test in place if you want the black vote. If you want black support, if you're going to call yourself talking to black folks, there's a litmus test that has to be passed. 1, tangibles, specifically for us. We ain't talking about people of color. We ain't talking about minorities. And to be bluntly honest, we're not even talking about all black people. We're talking about black people specifically whose bloodline goes back to the killing fields of the American South. Call it descendants of American slaves or foundational black Americans or whatever title it is you want to use. But those two are the ones that are most commonly used, and you really can't go wrong if you stick with either one of those. But nonetheless, we make it very specific. We're being specific here, not general. We're making it very clear. You're not going to be sitting here playing that old shell game with us. You're not going to be able to put on the old media theater where you have one of your hand-picked bootlicks like Big Bird, that clown from so-called Cobra, one of those professional do-nothing organizations where they sit around all day waiting for the next luncheon that they get invited to, who will pretend as if they're asking these idiots questions when in fact they're just going through the motions because it's all for show, it's nothing more than theater. We made the heat so hot that you even had the freaking griot of all people. They were forced to have to try to talk like us and ask Kamala Harris, what are you going to do for black people? And she said, nothing. You think I'm going to do something that only benefits black people? Okay, there you go. Yeah, they understand that when it comes to legitimacy, you're not going to be able to do the old game where you sit there and you ask Hillary Clinton questions about hot sauce. Or you bring Pete Buttigieg in, it's going to be questions about fried chicken. What chicken do you like? That old coonery and buffoonery that idiots like Charlemagne the fraud, Charlemagne the clown, Charlemagne the whoever. Idiots like that, the breakfast schlubs. That old game of we're going to bring him in, it's going to shuck and jive. Don't worry, ain't going to be no tough questions. We ain't going to embarrass you. To hell with that. A big part of what the black media is supposed to be doing is to be setting a whole new tone for what it is that counts as black discourse. And that tone is not going to be assertive, it's going to be aggressive. I do not want some political prostitute to come in front of me and they're going to be trying to figure out how the hell to get over on me. I'm asking you direct questions. And you're not going to talk around it. You come in front of me, what's going to be happening is going to be about what are you going to do for me? Specifically, we are going to be setting a tone, and the tone is not going to be whenever it comes time to talk about black people's concerns, well, it's going to be playtime. Whenever we're talking about black folks, it's playtime. It's always playtime whenever we're talking about black people. Oh, we can always go ahead and have roly-poly dancing a jig with Miss Hilly. We can have the breakfast schlubs asking Pete Buttigieg about fried chicken and asking Hillary Clinton about hot sauce. We can go ahead and do that because whenever we're talking about black folks, it's not supposed to be a serious conversation. We're not supposed to be speaking seriously because black folks can't handle a serious conversation. And that being the case, we want to reinforce, well, black folks just don't like that. The hell that they don't. We understand that's the white media using their influence to do programming. And the programming is they're trying to condition you as to what to expect whenever it comes time to talk about black people's concerns. So part of what the black media has done is to make it very clear. You come in front of black folks, it's going to be about the money. Where's the bread at? Don't you want to talk about dancing? No, I don't, unless you intend to dance a jig right out the damn door. We're going to be talking about money. This is business. And that's the tone and tenor that is supposed to be set. These are the fools who try to make it into some sort of half-baked love fest, playing the old game of, oh, well, the Democrats are our friends, and we don't ask them any tough questions, and we just believe whatever they say. To hell with that. 15 years ago, I pointed out that the mission of the black media was to take control of the social discourse within the black community and to elevate the debate. 15 years later, that is what we have done. We have taken control of the discourse. We got all these bastards who at first were pretending as if they were going to overtake us. They couldn't. Pretending as if they were going to ignore us. They can't. And now they're trying their best to do some half-baked impersonation of us, and it ain't working. And as far as elevating the debate goes, yeah, all of that coonery and buffoonery, all of that buffoon entertainment television talk, all of that, we're just going to pretend as if we're all just buddies here. That stuff is starting to go away. It's gone in a lot of quarters, and the few that it's still there, it's evaporating. We have elevated the debate. Talking about black people is going to be about tangibles. It's going to be about business. It ain't going to be about feelings. We want to talk about our feelings, damn feelings. Cut the check. And these damn race soldiers who you are propping up and who you are funding and letting these bastards run around killing black folks, you ain't doing a damn thing about it. We're not talking about police reform. The only way that you can reform the police is to punish them. And punishment means life or it means capital punishment. But what it does not mean is any sort of paid vacation on the taxpayer dole. And it does not mean you get transferred to another police department. It means full stop, go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go straight to jail. That's what it means. We are defining what the discourse is supposed to be. And we are elevating it. No more of this Roscoe's chicken and waffle type talk. No more of this beans and cornbread conversation. We are taking the power out of the hands of these bootlicks of the white media propped up as their safe Negroes who you already know what you're supposed to do. You got Roly-Poly Martin slipping Donna Brazile the questions. It's all just theater. Nobody gives a damn because when you're dealing with black folks, it's never to be taken seriously. Well, now they know that there's a force out here to be reckoned with. No, not me. You. You are who they're afraid of. The only reason they point their guns at us happens to be because we're the ones who are saying what you're thinking. We're the ones who have been saying what you've been saying. And helping to aggregate enough black people and to collect enough black people together with a voice loud enough to be heard. They want that process to be stopped. But ultimately, it's not what Professor BlackTruth is saying. It's what you've been saying. Yes, a lot has changed, but not nearly enough. However, we are relentless. We understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And who wins depends on who it is who's going to continue fighting no matter what. We are not going to allow ourselves to be distracted. This is not about trying to hope to ourselves that we can calm these white supremacists down before the next commercial break so we can go back to watching the Real Housewives of Who Gives a Damn. This is not about us being pathetic and hoping that a lifelong racist like Joe Biden is going to do right by us when the man's damn near in his grave at this point. He's older than dirt at this point. And here you got some Negroes stupid as hell talking about how, oh, he gonna do for black folks because he knows what'll happen if he don't because of the uprisings last year. As soon as he gets in office, first thing he says is, damn you niggers. I won't even return your phone calls. You know those promises that I made? Psych. Ain't none of it happening. Now, this came as a surprise to a lot of the Biden bootlicks out there. It didn't come as a surprise at all to the black media. We told you what was going to occur. The problem is not so much that Jim Crow Joe became president as a matter of he had a bunch of black folks who were sitting here hoping against hope that he was going to go against what he's been doing for the last 50 plus years. That this man who has been an unabashed, relentless anti-black racist longer than most of us have been alive, and yet some Negroes were still desperately hoping at this late date that he was going to do something else. See, we can't blame all of it just on white media programming. Sure, their media monopoly makes it where they can tell a bunch of lies endlessly. But the real question is, how many black folks who even consider themselves to be smart enough? Oh, I listen to Professor BlackTruth. I listen to the other new voices of black media. And yet when we tell you, hey, this Jim Crow Joe guy, he's no different and no better than Donald Trump. Oh, well, nah, man, we can't, that Trump dude, he crazy. No. He's not crazy, he's just an honest white supremacist, and that scares a lot of black folks. Because for the longest time, we've been playing the game of, well, we need some polite white supremacists. You can be white supremacists, just be polite. Do you have to call us nigger, though? Far as I'm concerned, I am not scared of a white supremacist at all. So them being honest, as far as I'm concerned, good. Now we all know where we stand. See, the problem with having the orange-skinned bigot in the White House was you couldn't deny that he was a racist. You couldn't sit there and pretend as if it wasn't what it clearly was. And with him in front of you, now you felt like, oh God, I'm going to have to actually get up and confront white daddy. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And then when the pain got great enough, when the insults got great enough, all of a sudden you had some folks who said, well, hold on, man, we can't be just letting you run all over us like this. Then people started standing up and started stepping forward, and that's good. Joe Biden was meant to be nothing more than hitting the snooze button. So you have folks who were starting to wake up, some of them who have been in a coma for the last 50 years, but some folks were starting to wake up. So the powers that be needed to hit the snooze button again, and in comes Jim Crow Joe with Kamala Harris. So you have two lifelong white supremacist foot soldiers, one who wrote the laws meant to imprison black people, and another one who broke a ton of laws and violated the Constitution 5 ways from Sunday to lock black folks up and keep them in prison. Yeah, those two, they were made for each other, but they weren't made for us. These are the forces arrayed against us. Not that they're new, but the thing is, this is the challenge, the fight of our time. This is the work that we have been called to do. The holy and hallowed work of toppling white supremacy, crushing it to dust, never to be seen or heard from ever again. We're doing God's good work, and I do mean we. All of us have to be behind this. All of us have got to put our shoulder to the wheel, and all of us got to put out effort for this. White supremacy did not arise simply because a handful of people. It was a lot of folks who got together to create the most evil plan, the most evil machine in the history of the world. We're up against an organized offense. We require an organized defense. White supremacy is a team sport. Black empowerment also must be a team sport. We don't have to have a team as large as theirs necessarily, but our team damn well better be the most motivated. If there is any one thing that I would hope that you've taken away from the last 15 years of the work that we've been doing, it is to stop being scared. Stop being afraid all the time. As Stokely Carmichael said, all the scared niggas are dead. Well, unfortunately, he wasn't right about that. Maybe the scared Negroes in his time were dead, but looks like their genes had successfully been passed on. A lot of black folks, they just like being scared of white supremacy. They don't even know why. It's just the boogeyman that they love to quake in their boots over. Stop believing the lie that this white supremacist over here, who tells you that he hates you, is somehow worse than this other white supremacist over here who says, I'm not going to do anything for you. Power isn't reactive, it's proactive. Power does not look at the landscape and try to adjust to whatever's going on. Power tries to take control of the landscape. The reason that we talk so much about the 2020 election is not because it's about Biden or Trump. It's about what you're doing. It's about whether you're still waiting on the people who oppress you to free you. Both of the major parties were created by white supremacy. Democrats created by Thomas Jefferson, a slave owner. Republicans established by people like Abraham Lincoln. He wasn't the founder of the Republican Party, but he was one of its early members. I say that for the people who don't read or pay attention so well. And yet, Abraham Lincoln was the one who said he didn't believe in the equality of the races. He would see the superior position assigned to the white man. Hell, Thomas Jefferson couldn't have said that any better. So both of the major parties are in fact inventions of white supremacy, which is why when it comes to black people, there has been a complete and thorough continuity of policy. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans, they play off of each other. And it is being naive and stupid to think that politics is about friendship. Neither one of the parties is your friend. This ain't about friendship, it's about business, it's about getting ours. Voting is not merely a civic activity, it's a societal one as well. It means that you're going to choose white supremacist candidate A or white supremacist candidate B. And those are the only choices you have because you have not done the work of making sure you have a choice. A real choice is one that you put on the ballot. White supremacy's entire MO is to perpetuate itself. So they're not about to put somebody on the ballot who's going to tear white supremacy down. Oh, they'll put somebody on there who pretends to talk a little bit like you. And as soon as they see that you've fallen for their cock and bull story, okay, now it's back to the plantation. And both of the parties do this. Voting is a vote of confidence. It's you saying that I believe in whatever is going on here and that I'm going to abide by whatever is going on, even when it's running me into the ground. You'll sit on your hands and just abide by whatever anti-black laws the Democrats allow to be on the books. And then you'll let the Republicans use the apparatuses of the state to attack you, and you'll just take it until the next election where the cycle plays itself out over and over again, or vice versa. The Republicans will pass the laws and the Democrats will use the apparatus of the state to attack you. Most of these instances of black people being killed be happening in Democratic areas. But you don't see Nancy Pelosi saying anything about it. I guess that's because Nancy Pelosi and her pals have almost completely ethnically cleansed her town of San Francisco of black people. San Francisco, anybody else you can think of from around there like Kamala Harris? And don't expect to see any of the black bootlicks putting them on the hot seat or making an issue out of it. They know what their job is. They are to be cheerleaders for the left arm, political arm of white supremacy, so that black folks will actually be lulled into the delusion that maybe, just maybe, they got some good white friends over here when they really don't. We're just telling the ugly realities of the world and how you can change them. That's the part that goes unsaid. The black media's mission is not merely about telling our people where we stand, but also about how the hell we're going to get out of this situation. Yes, the FBA/DAS of the United States, we have changed the world. But we didn't do it merely as some act of selfless philanthropy. The entire goal, the entire purpose behind what we were doing was to change our position in the world. That's what we were doing all of that work for. And one of the biggest reasons why the work has yet to be fulfilled is because we have been living in fear. We've been living in fear of offending any of our would-be friends. Oh, we want friends so badly, so desperately. We live in fear of offending them. And they're the ones who are running off with the goods and telling us that, well, there's nothing for you. No matter what it is that we fight for, well, it's always going to be something that benefits everyone else. And well, there's nothing for you. And we don't even say boo about it because we're afraid of offending anyone. The murders of black people are taking place at the local and county level. And that is where we can have the most impact politically because it's also where our numbers are the most concentrated. But there are too many black people who are afraid that they're going to have to take time away from video gaming or take time away from watching whatever TV show that they like or what have you. They're afraid they're going to have to take time away from that. So as far as they're concerned, they're waiting for someone else to do the heavy lifting. Fear. Getting black people to lose their fear that white supremacist candidate A is going to be worse than white supremacist candidate B. There's no place for fear in empowerment. That doesn't mean that there are no dangers and that there are no threats, but what it means is we do not allow ourselves to make decisions based on fear. We don't make decisions based on emotion at all. We make our decisions based on a cold, clinical analysis of the facts, of the reality. And we don't do it with one eye on the facts and the other eye on whatever group over here that we're hoping to curry the favor of or stay in the good graces of. You don't have any friends. The people who give you a pat on the head, you're not currying their favor. You're not on their good side. They're treating you like a dog. And it's up to you to let them know that you're not a dog, though you do bite. You are the reason that all of this is happening. Without you, there would be no new voices of black media. There'd just be a handful of black folks who are trying to tell the truth, and they would just be irrelevant. I would be irrelevant without you. And all the other new voices of black media that you've heard, whether it be TBA, Tariq, or whomever, all of us wouldn't matter if it wasn't for you. You're the reason that all this is happening. You are the ones whose minds the white supremacists want to capture and to keep contained. And as long as you decide that you're going to continue listening to us, then what's going to happen is you're going to keep shaking things up, because we're not going to allow you to sit on your laurels. That we will not allow you to do. Our job is not merely to agitate you, it is to provoke you. See, Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, they want cheerleaders. But over here in the B1, we want fellow soldiers. So the steady drumbeat of the white media and the white powers that be behind them trying to prop up their little bootlicks, the new ones, the old ones, the counterfeit organizations trying to pretend like they speak for you and me, there's going to be more of it. There's going to be a lot more of it. They're going to be throwing the kitchen sink at us. They are terrified to engage with us, and that being the case, they're going to be trying to use all these little proxies and distractions and flooding the zone. Whether or not they're successful will depend entirely on you. If you are focused, if you are dedicated, then they're going to fail. They've already failed before they even begin. But understand, lukewarm effort's not going to be enough. Black empowerment is not something that happens every blue moon or every lazy Sunday or whenever the mood hits. White supremacy is constant, hence we must also be constantly working against it. And that brings me to the special announcement that I've been hinting at for the last few days. I've got good news and I've got bad news. So I'll go ahead and give you the bad news first. The bad news is that this is going to be my final evening address. For Thursday, I should say. I'll still be doing my Sunday evening address. That will not change. But the reason that I've decided that I'm not going to be doing a regular Thursday address anymore is the good news. The good news is that I've decided to institute a format change, if you will. One of the comments that I receive most often is that people wish that I would post more frequently. Well, I'm going to. Starting Monday, November 1st, I'm going to begin posting in the mornings, and I'm going to call it The Moment of Truth. Now, why that name in particular? These daily morning postings that I'm going to be doing are going to be somewhat shorter than what you've been used to for the last 15 or so years. Now, practically since I began posting on YouTube all those years ago, my length of videos have typically been between 45 minutes and an hour. Don't expect for the Moment of Truth to be that long. Now, some of them could be. I'm not saying that it's going to be 30 seconds. It's a moment of truth, not a second of truth. But for this new weekday morning postings that I intend to start doing, I want to make sure that these videos are basically something that you'll be able to listen to on the drive to work, at your office, something you can listen to and get your day off to an honest start, a truthful start. When it comes to the moment of truth, as our warrior scholar brother Khalid Muhammad said, I won't be long, but I will be strong. So I'm pretty confident that you're going to like being able to start your mornings with the professor. But what I'm hoping to achieve with this change is to try to do my part to help keep up a steady drumbeat of truth for our people. I want to make sure that the frequency is increased because I think that's exactly what we need at this time. We've come a hell of a long way, but we've still got a hell of a long way to go, and we're going to get there together. A lot's going on right now. Ground is constantly shifting under our feet. That's to be expected. Change is inevitable. Victory, however, is not. Unless we are relentless. Unless we are unapologetic about what we want. Unless we are black first.